Hi, Robert. How are you? Good morning.
Hey, Carl. Good morning. How are you?
Good. Just checking to make sure I'm in the right room and everything. It looks like I am.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just gonna wait for Mona and Kristina to come on, and then I can kind of talk you over what to expect from this.
Okay.
I think a few people are already logged in, so either waiting so they can hear and listen to the instructions as well.
Oh, there's some people that can hear right now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I just want to double check to make sure I know how to, now I can share my screen because I'm going to be the main driver of the slide deck.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna just make doubly sure, make all the presenters a co-host as well, just so that you should for sure have all the like the permissions to be able to share and everything.
Perfect. Should I dabble with it now? Should I share my screen?
Yeah, you can give it a try.
Shot here. Just let me know if it looks okay.
Yeah, it looks good.
Let me make sure. Okay. View. Sent. Does it look good?
Yeah.
Let me. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Testing it out. Hi, Kristina.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good, good.
Good. Hi, Kristina.
Hi, you're our awesome Zoom host, I hear.
Yeah, I'll be your Zoom host for today. And then, yeah, once Mona comes on, we'll go through everything. I mean, there's not much to go through, but.
No, I appreciate. Yeah, I think we'll wait till Mona gets here. But thank you for your help.
You're welcome.
And there are already students here, Kristina, FYI.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I see Marisa, so she's
attendees
ahead of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they set up a kind of like allow people in so everyone can just come in.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No lobby here. It's open right away.
Yep.
It's behind the scenes right here.
Yeah.
And is everything being recorded already right now? No,
yes. So we're just gonna pretty much cut everything from before
Gotcha. So you'll edit
10:30.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I mean,
I want to confirm on my end things are working with the slide deck, Kristina.
Everything on my view is looking great. So I see the title slide, and I think you were clicking a little bit ago, and I saw it moving.
Yeah, because later on I do want to leave the slide to show this a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And so it shouldn't be too rough of a transition.
Okay.
It's still a little early. I guess I don't have to have this on the entire time. I'll stop it.
Looks like there's Mona.
Hi, sorry about that. I was in the wrong breakout room, copied the wrong one.
No worries.
Yeah, there's plenty of time. So yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself to you guys since everyone's here now. My name's Robert. So I work with the Centers of Excellence. And then, yeah, so I made all three of you co-hosts. So in case any of you need to share anything, I think Karl's going to be doing most of the sharing. And then, so how this conference is run through right now is that they're running it through Whova. So the conference is on Whova on the other end. We just have the presentations linked through Zoom so that we can do like multiple presentations. And so on the Whova side, they have like a whole system where they can do Q&As and things like that and ask questions in chat. So you actually don't have you don't have view of that right now. So I just wanted to make sure that to see how you guys prefer to receive questions. Do you want me to have them wait until the end and then I'll just ask the questions to you guys directly all at the end, or would you like me to kind of receive the questions and interrupt and ask you guys as you get them?
Let's just do it at the end.
At the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
think
makes
we
sense.
would have like a slide to prompt that too, as well.
Yeah,
And then if my understanding is correctly, you'll be putting like any link that we may refer to that we have in our PowerPoint that we sent, that you'll be able to put that in the chat, in the Hoover chat.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so all the chat through Zoom is disabled because
Okay.
I already have one on the other side.
Right.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I set everything so that you guys are allowed to share and everything already. And then the session will be recorded. And then, like I mentioned before, we'll just, once we post it online, we'll cut everything, like all of this. So it'll just pretty much start at the presentation and end with the presentation.
And then in case we're running long, do you want us to kind of wait like 5 minutes till the hour for Q&A, like a minute or two, like, or do you want to prompt us or?
Yeah, I can prompt you at, I think this session runs till 11:30, so I can prompt you for 5 minutes at maybe 11:20, and then the last 5 minutes will be Q&A.
Okay.
So 11:20, after 50 minutes, I'll prompt you that there's about 10 minutes left in the session, and then when there's 5 minutes, I can prompt you again if you want to do a quick Q&A.
Is that cool, Mona? Because Mona will be at the end and then she'll.
Yeah, that's fine. Should I hand it over to Robert for the Q&A or should I just go straight into it?
I think you can go straight into it, and I'll just ask the questions as I get them in Hoover.
Okay. And is my volume okay? Sorry, it's hard to tell with my work desktop sometimes.
It sounds
I can
fine
hear
to
you
me.
well.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me okay? I'm like raising up mine just in case, but.
Yeah, I never know if I'm yelling or too quiet. So just let me know if it needs to be higher or lower.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess interrupt this, Robert, if that people are like, Christy's screaming at me.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, when the breakout begins, I'll just do a quick introduction and house rules, and then I'll let you introduce yourselves. And that'll be like a minute. I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving break. Too long, too short?
Never too long.
Never too
Yeah, yeah.
long weekend. No, I'm just kidding.
I think the semester should just end right at Thanksgiving break.
Right? Yes. And then Carl, once we start, like, and Robert's talking and doing like the housekeeping stuff, we can just keep it on slide 1. And as soon as he's done, we can just go to slide 2, and then I'll jump into, hello, who we are, all that good stuff.
Oh, can you repeat that again? So you want me to?
Yeah, so when Robert, like people are coming in,
Mhm.
and then Robert's gonna, do like the housekeeping stuff, I believe he said, we can just keep on that slide 1. And then after Robert's done talking, if you don't mind just hitting the slide 2.
Oh, after, okay, so you want me to go here after Robert's talking?
Yeah, so after when he's talking, to stay on the slide 1, the title page. And then as soon as he's done, you can just go to the second one. And I'll go straight into hello, welcome.
Yeah, so stay here, and then as soon as Robert's done, go to the next one.
Yeah,
This one.
perfect. Yep.
Awesome. Sounds good. Yeah, and my introduction will just be like introducing myself and then introducing the breakout, and then kind of just letting everyone know to keep themselves muted if they have questions, how to ask them, and how you're going to respond to them.
Okay.
And then just letting them know everything will be uploaded afterwards, and kind of telling them to rate the session when we're done.
Okay, cool.
So it shouldn't take more than a minute or so.
look better? I hope that's not too dim.
Have you guys presented at a counselors conference before? Oh, cool. I started with the COE at the beginning of this year, so this is the first time attending one for me.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
welcome. Yeah. Mona's like a pro. Like my first ones that I went to moons ago, I saw her. Met with her and Carl, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, this is
Nice.
my second virtual, I think. But I really miss the in-person. Those are fun.
Yeah. Hey everyone, we'll be starting in about 5 minutes. We'll be starting in just a couple minutes.
One of my colleagues at Mesa is presenting at the same time. So I'm bummed, but it's about how to provide career resources for our socially impacted students. So I was bummed. I was like, man, but at least we're gonna be able to see the materials.
We'll be able
Awesome.
to get the video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny at Mesa, people are like, what one should we attend?
We should
All
make it
right,
equitable. No.
Yeah. I said, you guys can
Yeah.
go back and forth. It's okay.
All right, Carl, Kristina, and Mona, you ready to begin?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So hi, everyone. My name is Robert Chu, and I'll be your Zoom host today to assist the They're your presenters. So today's breakout is cultivating equity-minded best practices in career counseling. And I'll just have to make a few housekeeping announcements before we get started. So for one, please everyone keep yourself muted during the presentation. If you have any questions, the Whova has a Q&A window to the right side of your video, so you can enter questions there. And there'll be about a 5-minute period for the presenters to answer your questions at the end. So we'll be doing all questions at the end. And then we'll be uploading the breakout presentation materials and recording this breakout as well. And it'll be available for all attendees to access after the conference. And then after the breakout session, there will be a rate session button for you to complete a brief survey on the breakout. So with that out of the way, I'll let the presenters introduce themselves.
Thank you so much, Robert. Welcome to the Cultivating Equity-Minded Best Practices breakout session. My name is Carson, and I work at San Diego Mesa College, and I'm excited to co-present with Karl Cameron from the College of Continuing Education and Mona Patel from San Diego Miramar College. Now, all three of us are career counselors and coordinators of career services at our respective campuses, and we are very excited to share our experiences with you. So thank you for choosing our session, especially this morning. And yes, a very quick note, we want to kindly remind you that this session is meant to be a safe and welcoming space. We encourage everyone to remain respectful, and we would love your participation in our future group activity. With that said, and with continued respect, we take this moment to acknowledge that our San Diego Community College District's campuses sit on the traditional land of the Kumeyaay Nation. We recognize the Kumeyaay people, past and present, and their land with honor and gratitude. The purpose of this land acknowledgement is to recognize, respect, and affirm the ongoing relationships between Indigenous people and the land. Land acknowledgements also raise awareness about the Indigenous histories, perspectives, and experiences that are often suppressed or forgotten. Now, in this session, we respectfully unite together to discuss and share examples of equitable practices we are implementing at our campuses to better serve the needs of our diverse student populations, especially underrepresented students. For example, first generation, low income, BIPOC students, LGBTQ+, and other marginalized social identities. We will be discussing 3 career equity themes / practices, and each of us will go over each theme, or each of us will go over one theme. For example, the first one, how to support individuals holistically. The second one, how to revamp outreach with a diversity, equity, and inclusion focus. And the third one, how to use data to provide space and mentorship to our students. I would now like to pass the speaking baton to the awesome Karl Cameron to address theme 1.
I'm not sure how awesome I am, but thank you for the warm introduction, Christy. It's an honor to be working with you and Mona to share on the topic of cultivating equity-minded best practices in career counseling. The first theme of this breakout session is the topic of supporting individuals holistically during counseling sessions. As counselors, many of us are in this room here, our listening skills, our empathy skills, as well as our cultural competence are always being tested. I want to use a sliver of my personal career development journey as an example of the complexities of cultural influence. As a Filipino, then later on as a Filipino American, I will attest to an emphasis in the healthcare industry careers. There's a history here. Since the early 60s, there are various push and pull factors that have led to over 100,000 nurses to come into the United States from the Philippines. This was the case with my stepmother, who was a nurse, a close aunt who was also a nurse, another close aunt who was a doctor, and a close uncle who was a doctor as well, and my stepdad, who was also a nurse, even though he wasn't Filipino, so that didn't help either. Whenever we went to holiday gatherings, guess what? Their friends and our friends were also medical professionals. This was my immediate sphere of influence. I can say definitively that this shaped me. Healthcare careers were introduced to me first before all other options. This is often referred to as the primacy effect. The primacy effect in psychology is a cognitive bias that results from disproportionate salience of initial stimuli or observations. Salience in psychology refers to distinctiveness, prominence, and obviousness. So for me, that industry, that sector was just more prominent and more obvious because it was exposed to me first. I was able to directly and indirectly observe the day in the life experiences of healthcare professionals. I know for those who are counselors, many of you are familiar with information sessions. So it was built in my life. I know about the 410 schedule. I know about what being call meant in healthcare. I know more than most about the process of cataract procedures and the process of dialysis. So how did it affect me? So what did I do? Well, it affected me in a few ways. It's strong, personally, I strongly considered a career in healthcare initially. Even in high school, there were push and pull factors that led me to be involved in a healthcare clusters program. So I was exposed to a variety of healthcare careers early on. One of my first jobs after completing my collegiate studies was as a pharmaceutical rep. So I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for some time. And then later on, I was involved as a healthcare recruiter. So I can certainly say that there were pros and cons to this exposure. As it says on the slide deck, at times it did feel like my options were limited to the healthcare arena, but it wasn't all bad. I did feel that I had a competitive advantage if I decided to continue my pursuit in the healthcare track. And I feel like it did give me some advantages as I entered into that arena early on in my career. But maybe it would have been beneficial if I was exposed to a broader set of options earlier on. I'm going to take a brief step back into theory. There's a theorist that many of you are probably familiar with. His name is Donald Super. He's kind of a go-to guy when it comes to career development. Super's career model is based on the belief that self-concept changes over time and develops as a result of experience. And personally, I strongly agree with that. Even though he believed that self-concept changes over time and develops as a result of experience, however, during early childhood, he believed that there are important role models, maybe such as one's parents or one's sphere of influence that can influence this self-concept. He believed that fantasies of occupations are affected by information about the world, and they can in turn become interests. This is the case in point that I'm trying to make about the importance of cultural and familial influence. We're going to go into more theory here in the short time that I'm going to be speaking with you. I'm going to reference another theorist. His name is Mark Savickas. He developed the career construction theory. A big part of the career construction approach is the emphasis on assessing personal history. As a counseling tool, the practice involved the theory can start with an interview to identify and reveal a student's life. The cultural lens in this process, in this theory, is deeply emphasized as a foundation of career development. This is a case in point I'm trying to make in terms of the importance of cultural influence and the experiences. Cultural influences and experiences is important in the factors to consider during career development dialogue. I'm going to explore this familial cultural link with you here in regards to career development. I know there's a lot of attention nowadays regarding Facebook, or should we call it Meta, but I want to refer to an interesting resource page called Facebook Research. I'm going to actually leave this slide deck here shortly, and we'll go back to it, promise. And this is Facebook Research. They have lots of different topics that they cover here outside of the one that I'll be talking about. But the one that I'm going to focus on specifically tries to answer, do jobs run in families? Big research using Facebook data. And I encourage you later down the road to look at this, because I only examined and I zeroed in on the effect of parents or siblings' career on a person or a child earlier on. And so there's a lot more to this report than what I'll be discussing. But the research provided data to answer the questions, How do your parents' career choices affect your own choices? How immediate family members can affect your own career choices? And how does this affect someone's career choice in absolute terms? To conclude, we see that people within a family are proportionately more likely to choose the same occupation. You see that with the first two bullet points. A child may be much more likely to follow his or her parents' footsteps. There's an example there. And then the second bullet point says, people within a family, like if you have a sister or a brother, are proportionately more likely to eventually choose a similar career or a similar occupation. But this is not the entirety of the story. There's a caveat. Even though, relatively speaking, a child may be much more likely to follow his or her own parents' footsteps, right? In terms of absolute terms, the vast majority of kids and people in general, I shouldn't say kids, strike their own path and choose a profession different than that of their parents or siblings. Here. We're going to talk about culture here, but I'm not going to define it holistically for you because that's a difficult concept to define in one session. The slice that I presented to you today regarding my own career development influence centered on familial culture and Filipino culture. I know there are a myriad of other cultural facets that I haven't even mentioned that directly or indirectly affected me. I want to emphasize that culture has many different faces, and the students we serve have been, are currently, and will continue to be influenced by them. There's a nice little definition of culture that I found through Georgetown. And it says, a cultural group is defined simply as a collection of individuals who share a core set of beliefs, patterns, and behavior, patterns of behavior and values. Let's go through real quickly, some cultures that can often influence a person in many different ways, including career development. Socioeconomic group. Let me know if you believe that that's something that can influence someone's career development. Maybe, I know there's a question button there for WOVA that you can put in. I know it's very difficult to kind of interact, but don't unmute yourself because that's the directions that Robert gave you. But just think about it. Does it affect someone if they live in a specific neighborhood, if they grew up in a specific position in society, right? If they're coming from a specific country of origin and they're asking questions about, what do many of those who look like me do for a living? Or will my command of the English language, we have many ESL students in our institutions, right? Can they limit my choices at this point in time? Ethnic background, race, gender, Eastern versus Western culture. I know after speaking with Mona, she shed some light on Japanese culture, and there's this idea of ikigai, and the idea behind it. And again, I'm probably chopping it up too much for someone to understand, but there's a concept of purpose and family. It plays a big role in decision making, and that's just not something that's emphasized in Western culture. Religion. These are just slices of culture that we can take into account when seeing students. Okay, now time for an activity. Robert, is there any way that you can actually post the Padlet link on the chat? Is that a possibility?
Yes.
Okay, outstanding. We're now going to our Padlet exercise. Please reference the link that will be shared here briefly on the chat. What we're trying to do is we want to get a sense of the variety of cultural influence that each of you have faced during your own career development. And the prompt that I'll ask each and every one of you is the prompt that's on the screen now. And we're going to have that available as well when we go to the Padlet, which looks like this. Okay. And I also have the example. So if you want to have kind of an idea of how to approach this, what kind of cultures that have affected you personally in your own career development, or even if it's someone that I referenced the previous slide that talked about culture. Okay, so singular prompt. What cultural factor or factors influenced your career development when you were growing up? The post will be anonymous, and you're able to comment on the post. And we're going to have about 3 minutes for this exercise. So let's begin.
And the link is in the Hoover chat already, everyone.
Outstanding.
And thank you, Carl, for making that link very short.
I didn't choose the link, it was just automatic. And Robert, if you can tell me when the 3 minutes will be up, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, will do.
Don't be shy. I can see if anyone's posted.
Is it possible to put the chat in this presentation, because I'm on my phone, so I can't like go to the other Kuva page without stopping and getting out of this presentation? Is that possible, please?
Robert?
Are you able to see it now?
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Makes it easier.
No worries, you're welcome.
So we'll put down neighborhood, growing up mixed race, family. That's always a big thing, right? Want me? I'll read it later on. We'll have a chance to review basically each one of them in a minute or so.
It's just about 3 minutes, Carl.
Okay, awesome. Outstanding, guys. You guys have a lot to say, and I hope I can go through each and every one of the prompts here. I know it's kind of jumping around, but I'll start with the first one I see in the top left. I don't know if it's an equitable way of actually reading through all the all the responses here, but you know, that's the best way I can see things. So my parents' primary reason for leaving their home country to create better opportunities for their children here. They also instilled in me a love for learning and love for people. Role models is a big thing. So it might not be your parents, right? I mean, it could be someone that you look up to while you were growing up or soon after. It was important for me to see people who look like me in different careers. It communicated to me that it was truly possible to do X job or Y job. How my ethnic group is viewed in the media. As an Asian growing up in the 80s, majoring in English was a direct response to assumptions that I would major in accounting, economics, and medicine. Cultural economic aspects during the 1990s in my country, Cuba. A quick career to support family financially, and that's a big thing, right? Being able to provide for your family. Sometimes, you know, that's many times that's you know, high on the priority chart. Neighborhood rich in diversity, daughter of an immigrant parent working multiple jobs to survive. How my ethnic group is viewed in the media. If I'm missing anything in here, Kristina and Mona, please let me know if I missed anything else, because it's kind of jumping around. It says my influence in terms of career was definitely influenced by my family's position in society and my own occupation. My mixed family also played a role. Also, I grew up in Tijuana, Mexico in an upper middle class status, and that definitely influenced what my family wanted for me to study in terms of career. It had to be one that would provide status and wealth, something suitable for female as well. Okay, I think I read pretty much every one of those. Incredibly insightful, guys, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm glad that the exercise, you know, provided some insight in regards to how culture affected you personally and how it can affect the students that we serve as educators at different levels, whether we're counselors or teaching faculty, okay? I want to ask the audience here, are there any influences in one's life that can be viewed as stereotypes? Okay. Definition of a stereotype is a widely held belief, a widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea of a particular type of person or thing. It's important for career counselors or general counselors or any educator for that matter, when they're in dialogue with a student about career development, to share exceptions to stereotypes. And I think I saw that during the Padlet exercise, that did matter to many of you personally, to show that many options are plausible. It doesn't mean that we minimize cultural factors that can have beneficial effects. Like, for example, if your father or mother worked in construction, then you might have hit the jackpot if your dream career is that of a construction manager, or if you want to follow the trade, right? All I'm saying is that providing evidence of exceptions to the rule is important. Stereotypes can be very limiting if not held in check. Exceptions to the stereotype, such as men in healthcare, right? You know, like nursing or CNA, could be women in IT, computer science, minorities, BIPOC in computer science or in IT. In conclusion, listen to your clients, students, listen to what they're telling you. Develop cultural sensitivity and be careful in imposing your own values. Exposure to a limited set of options due to socioeconomic and cultural factors may be problematic. It can lead to a career ceiling, or the career choices are limited due to lack of understanding of options. In other words, you don't know what you don't know, or if it leads to a lack of job and career satisfaction. Even if you have exposure to the careers that are outside of cultural norms, it might not seem tangible, okay? It may be beneficial, however, if the career track leads to knowledge and skill development that may lead to competitive advantages, and if by chance the careers are a good fit and leads to job and career satisfaction. I hope I've given you some insight on the subject of supporting individuals holistically. Now I'm going to pass on the baton to my wonderful colleague, Carson, who will talk about the topic of revamping outreach with a focus on DEI.
Thank you, Karl. That was wonderful. And yes, I will be discussing theme 2 and how Mesa's Career Center and I have revamped our career outreach efforts with a DEI focus. And so if you look at the next slide, this last year, in response to Chancellor Oakley's and Mesa College's Student Services Leadership Team, their call to actions, our former TC supervisor, Claudia Estrada Howe, initiated our team to develop, and this is a mouthful, Transfer, Career, and Evaluations Anti-Racism, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Plan. And so specifically, my counseling colleague and fellow co-coordinator of career services, Raquel Sojourner, our former career student support specialist, Alicia Lopez, and I developed this very specific career goal, the goal to outreach. And specifically, the goal to outreach to Black studies, Chicana and Chicano studies. I'm sorry, back to the slide before. Thank you, awesome. To the Chicano and Chicano studies, Emoja and Puente program students and faculty, and to provide presentations on Career Center programs and services with an aim to increase access and engagement for Black and Latinx students. And we wanted to dismantle career exploration inequities among marginalized Black and Latinx students. And we try to do this our best, especially in a remote fashion. And we are very proud of the work that we've done. And we know there's plenty of work to do for our call to action, but I will be sharing some of our work with you today. And before I do so, I don't know if my partner in crime is in this call today from Mesa College, but Raquel, I just wanted to give you a shout out because we did this together as far as trying to revamp our services. And so this plan is located on the Mesa College's Career Center homepage, and the link will be put in the chat soon. So as a result of the TC action plan, our career action goal, I will be highlighting 5 examples of our intentional DEI outreach efforts with you this morning. Now, the first one, as you can see on this slide, is our career meet and greets. Here we met our students where they were at. For example, we went into their synchronous classrooms and in their program service meetings via Zoom. We also tapped into the workshops offered through Mesa, EOPS, and our Promise students. And we also collaborated with these departments and services as well. For each meet and greet, Raquel and I wanted to provide a friendly and welcoming face to career services, that we weren't scary people. We were there to help them with any career needs that they had along their journey. And then in the future, we plan to outreach to our LGBTQ+ student athletes and Asian Pacific Islander students populations and support programs, because we know there's a lot of work to do. Next slide, please. The second example is our career chats. This is a counseling service where counselings could meet with us in a casual and quick remote manner, kind of like a hotspot, about any of their career or major planning counseling needs. Now, these were about maybe like 15 or 20 minutes, kind of like a drop-in session. But if they needed more time and more career assistance, which often sometimes happen, the student could schedule a 1-hour future career counseling appointment with Raquel or myself on the spot with our student support staff member who would schedule them. Even if the student's question was not career related, Raquel and I wanted to make sure that the students felt heard. And if we did not know the answer, we would find it. And if needed, refer them to any person, service, department that could assist them better. In order to reach our Black, African American, and Latinx students better, we also had to be more intentional with our marketing. For example, we sent marketing materials and emails and social media posts to specific DEI student groups and programs, such as Emoja, the Black Student Union, Puente, EOPS, etc. So if you have any student groups on your campus or associations that you can tie into, if you have a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, great ways to connect and really collaborate. Now, the third example is our career services Powtoon video. So Raquel and I created this video this past summer. We not only put this video on our Career Center homepage and our YouTube channel, but we sent it out all to Mesa College. And we really wanted to encourage faculty to put this on their Canvas shells and to share this very short video with our students. Now, we know it's impossible for us to visit every course remotely, or if we have the opportunity to do it in person. So this was a new way to introduce our career services through a digital equity lens, and hopefully in a fun manner where we could kind of be animated. The fourth example is our 24/7 career resources. We really wanted to clean up our Career Center website. Like, is it student friendly? Is this making sense? And it's still a work in progress. And we wanted to provide our students with more accessible and relevant career resources 24/7. We are aware that many of our students are not always able to meet with us during our normal operating hours. So we wanted to make sure that they could, no matter what day, what time it was, they could utilize resources to help them become more career ready. For example, we added these specific resources. We added the Black African American career resources to our page. We are updating our diverse career resources handbook. We have a career chat bot. So again, 24 hours, if you have a question, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, the student's going in, they can ask a question and get an automated answer. And during our operating hours, we actually have a lot of our student workers who will be live agents, which is really cool. And we also have a YouTube channel that we're building up. We've put videos anywhere from 30-second videos to an hour video on resume, preparing for an interview, whether it's virtual or in person, how to brand yourself on social media. A lot of really cool things, especially that our career peer ambassadors have done. And we also have a career ready guide that's going over, again, it's a free tool. Again, everything on here is free online for our students to access if they want to build their 21st century skills. So as I mentioned in the opening session today, Tina said, hey, employers want creativity. They want problem solving, entrepreneurship skills. These are the skills that are part of this guide. They can really help students develop and create it. And you get a cool certification when you're done. And that's something that students can put on their resume to make them feel like they're more career ready. And so I believe the fifth example is how we joined forces with the Black Faculty Counselors Collaborative in our college's first ever Black Student Success Week that occurred this last spring. And we provided a career workshop where we went over our career resources. But in particular, we wanted to provide information about career resources and counseling services specifically for our Black African American students. And we were very honored. Again, it was part of a course, so it had that built-in audience. And so we're very honored to be part of this week and efforts and hope to continue doing that as well. So finally, what did we learn? What were the key takeaways? Well, this past year and a half, we were forced to really zoom in, no pun intended, right? For all of us that have to use Zoom on a daily basis, but to really zoom in on our past and current equity efforts and how could we do better? As a result, we learned a lot, and here are some of our key takeaways in regards to our career action goal. And hopefully you might want to consider some of these too, but they worked for us. Is let's be more intentional and mindful of what your students want. What do our students want and need? Just ask them, don't assume. Collaborate and market with programs and departments that already have a built-in audience, especially with BIPOC students. That was really important for us when we were revamping our outreach efforts. Be creative, think outside the box, right? Everything's different now. Why do we have to do things the old ways if we could do things better? And don't be afraid to be vulnerable and be real and authentic with your students and yourself, especially when we were starting off, in this kind of virtual world. We're like, oh, how do you fix this? Am I still muted, right? It's okay, we're all gonna make mistakes. And that was a way that we were able to create human connection. And we're finding out that's where the real learning is taking place. When you're vulnerable with your students, they're likely to be vulnerable back. And that's when you can have that really good personal and career counseling take place and that exploration. So with that said, that's the end of my portion, and I will now give the mic to the amazing Mona Patel to go over the third theme.
Thank you, Christy. Well done, and well done to you as well, Carl. It's been a pleasure working with both of you. So now I'm going to wrap it up with the last theme for today, which is using data to provide space and mentorship to our students. So naturally, for most of us that work in counseling, and specifically for the three of us that work at career centers, majority of us don't have a background in, we're not data nerds, data experts. And so realizing this in my role at the Career Center, I wanted to make sure that I reached out to our research office on campus at Miramar College and also to our equity office, because ultimately we could be doing excellent, equity-minded work, what looks like in our eyes, very meaningful work, but you really can't measure the impact of what we are truly doing without having the data to support that. And so I'm very much in the early stages of collecting data. However, I'd like to share with you what we have started collecting. Next slide, please. So at the Career Center, we have a system called SARS that a lot of you who are counselors at community colleges are familiar with. And in that process, we ask students for their student ID numbers. And so we were able to share the student ID numbers with our researchers at Miramar College at the research office. And they were able to pull some of the breakdown in terms of how different ethnic groups are utilizing career services. And so we started off with asking, can you please provide us a breakdown of, different populations? And I was also curious to compare it with our overall Miramar College student population with the ethnic breakdown. Next slide, please. So then we went into furthering, going into the specifics on the services at the Career Center. So for example, students can come to the Career Center to have their resume looked over, for cover letter assistance, for career exploration, if they want to come in, take a career assessment, assistance with job search or internship search, receiving assistance with their LinkedIn profile, doing a mock interview, talking about, how to prepare for an interview, going over career assessment results, so etc. There are multiple reasons why a student might come into the Career Center. What we found in common all across the board was regardless of the ethnic background, the majority of the students that were utilizing our services, in terms of the data that we collected for this particular year, which was from July 2020 to July 2021, all of them across the board for different ethnic groups, for career exploration was the most common reason to visit the Career Center. Next slide, please. And then we wanted to break it down into looking at the student population. When we look at our overall data at our college, which ethnic group has the lowest success in retention rates? And we came across with the data provided that it was our Black African American students. And so we wanted to take a further look into seeing, well, how are our Black and African American students that have visited the Career Center in the past year utilized our services? So again, all across the board, career exploration was the most common reason to come to the Career Center. But we also wanted to take a look as to, are there certain themes that we can look across as, our Miramar College population for Black African American students, I believe, is between 5–6%. So are the majority of the students that are coming as a total to the Career Center that are Black African American, are those about 5–6% as well? And we saw that, the numbers were lower, and we wanted to take a look in terms of the types of services that we are doing. Are they choices where students on their own can come and do, a career exploration, career assessment on their own where they feel that they might need assistance? Or are they required to come in through one of their personal growth classes where it's part of an assignment? So it's not necessarily them coming across our services on their own, but it's more where the professor might be telling them, or from another department such as EOPS or transfer or general counseling or outreach, where they're being directed to visit the Career Center. Next slide, please. So what we have started learning from this data is, again, that our most common, reason for most students coming to the Career Center or using our services is for career exploration purposes, and that certain ethnic groups utilize our services more than others. And that was not necessarily a surprise for us. Now, where do we go from here? Next slide, please. So how we have started using this data is looking into professional development. So for example, navigating the career development journey as a Black or African American student, or as a Latinx student, or as an Asian AAPI student, as a foster youth, as somebody who's coming from a population that some of us as counselors may not have as much exposure to. Of course, we can be compassionate and warm to every student that we meet, but if we don't have a true understanding of that background and some of the barriers that they face, we may not be providing them the best service. And it's also important to note that culturally, as Karl mentioned in his section, sometimes it's not an individual choice, and it's a very much of a family type of decision that's being made as to how the student is going to approach their major or career choices. We've started also looking at workshop collaborations where we don't do as many standalone workshops, the traditional like resume workshops, cover letter workshops, and not to say that those aren't useful, but we find that they're more welcoming and targeted when we partner with programs like EOPS or tutoring. And it's very intentional. For example, with tutoring, we have English tutors there. And we felt that when we were doing our cover letter workshops just by ourselves at the Career Center, it didn't really have quite the same audience, and we didn't receive as much feedback as we did when we partnered with tutoring, and we involved the English tutors with their background in expertise on grammar and when it comes to like writing cover letters. So with that partnership, we were able to have a greater reach, and some of those tutors already had a relationship with some of the students that they meet with. And so we are looking for ways where we can continue to have more of those successful collaborations. And then I'm going to provide examples for the last two of what we've started doing with our Career Ambassador program. Shout out to Mesa, who has had a dynamic Career Ambassador program started with your team in our district. So I've heard great things about it. And employer partnerships, I'm going to touch upon that briefly as well. Next slide, please. So I'd like to give you an example of two of our career ambassadors that we have at the Miramar College Career Center. So as some of you may know, traditionally our career technical education programs are not very diverse in terms of ethnic breakdown of just representation. And I'm talking specifically from my experience with, like aviation and diesel and auto at Miramar. And so when we found, when we started our career ambassador program, we were very intentional about having a greater reach to, empowering different students to apply, and not those that necessarily, we felt that diversity was really important in terms of our recruitment, especially because we wanted representation for other students to identify with students that looked like themselves, as we talked about in the Padlet activity. And so with Tarlise and Lewis, who you see on this screen, they're both part of our CTE programs. So Lewis is part of our paralegal program at Miramar, and Tarlise is part of our entrepreneurship program. And as career ambassadors who work for the Career Center, they get to assist us with, employer relations and helping students make appointments for various reasons to come receive, additional support from career counselors, but also we have provided mentorship to these two by encouraging them to attend some of our events and activities and helping us lead some of our workshops as well. Because if they themselves go through the experience, then not only are they going to see the value in that, but they're also going to be able to spread the word on the benefits of, having assistance with your resume, or how, they were able to partner with or collaborate with a club or an organization. And so I do want to share some good news that just occurred right after Thanksgiving break. So Lewis, who is one of our career ambassadors, is, as I mentioned, a paralegal student. So one of the, we have, obviously so many job postings, and employers are reaching out to us multiple times a day, and an employer posted a paralegal position. And so one of my colleagues, when she read the description, she was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect for Lewis. And she, asked if it would be okay to share it with one of our student ambassadors, and the employer said, of course. And so he applied and he got the position. So we, are very proud of him, and through his connection with the Career Center and us helping him, empowering him, giving him confidence, encouraging him to have his resume looked at and cover letter looked at and practicing, mock interviews. It's powerful to just see success stories like this. And we want to continue. We don't want to just leave it to, it's great to help Lewis and Tarlise, but we want to continue doing that with more students and encouraging them and helping them build that confidence through their career development journey. And then the next example, I'd like to give a shout out to one of my colleagues who's, I think, here still, Michelle Tillman. I noticed she was part of this breakout earlier. And so Michelle works with us at the Career Center part-time as a career counselor, and also part-time at the UCSD Rady School of Management at the Career Center there. And so we've talked a lot about, how do we work with different employers and provide exposure to students who traditionally come from backgrounds or might be first generation or come from neighborhoods where they don't learn about these different career options. And as some of you know, the accounting field is not necessarily a very diverse, when we think of career stereotypes, it's usually, a profession that comes with more of the white privilege type of stereotypes, especially with the big fours, with Ernst & Young, PricewaterhouseCoopers, KPMG, and Deloitte. And so when Michelle had shared with me that at UCSD Rady School of Management, she had started working with Deloitte, and how she was really, passionate about helping students at the community college have that exposure, because most of the recruitment occurs at the sophomore level at the 4 years. And by the time, if any of our students transfer, they may not have the same opportunities to learn about, potential internships. And so thanks to the work that Michelle was doing and meeting with the recruiters there, a lot of it is for us at the Career Center, it's educating the employers on barriers some of our students might face, and some wonderful talent. And, our community college students can really benefit from having exposure as well. And they also have skills that, could be benefits. So a lot of the work that we've been seeing, especially with employer relations, is now there's new positions coming up with human resources, which they're very much DEI focused. And I think that there's still this kind of disconnect where there's a lot of room for the Career Center, work-based learning, job placement type of roles to really educate the employers on, what does it mean? It's one thing to have, a wonderful website that shows diversity just by, faces and pictures, but intentionally practicing and going above and beyond, becoming a mentor, giving back, and really caring about our students. I think that's the piece that we would like to really work and focus more on. Of course, we can't tell employers exactly how to do recruitment, but we would definitely want to influence them and show them like examples of real life stories of our students. So next slide. So that ties up my section. So now we would like to open it up for questions that you may have from Karl, Kristi, or myself. And we do want to thank you very much for your time and choosing our breakout session today.
Hey, Mona. There was actually a question from Michelle Hager. She was curious about the data collection platforms that you're using to gather data.
Yeah, so a lot of it is started with SARS, which is our system that we use at the community colleges and counseling. And we have all of our student ID numbers on there. And so I shared that information specifically with the research office, and they have a system called like an equity data dashboard. And so they have all of the detailed data on, ethnic populations and foster youth and veterans. Just basically they house all of that information. And we have a researcher who's our data expert. And so she was the person that I had to pick her brain. And then also the associate dean who oversees the equity work going around on our campus in terms of even like what information, what data do I even like ask? What am I asking for exactly? So I really went to the experts on my campus because again, I am a counselor and I don't really, data doesn't come naturally to me.
Yeah, Michelle would like to thank you all for your time with us as well. Any additional questions? I'm gonna wait a bit and see if any pop up in the chat.
And like Robert said, all of our links in the next couple slides are referenced. So when all the conference materials are uploaded, you'll be able to go back. You can check out the responses that you put or the fellow attendees on the Padlet. So you're free to use, any of the resources that we put today or the references we also reference to as well. So we just really appreciate your time. And if there's not any more questions, obviously we'll give you the gift of time, but we really appreciate you all joining us today. And thanks again, Robert, and my awesome co-presenters, Mona and Karl. Thank you.
Thank you as well.
So we'll stay around if anybody has personal questions. Otherwise, I think we're good. We're at the end. We're done.
Yeah, we're getting quite a few thanks in the chats here. Let me see if I can post them.
My chat is disabled, but thank you. The information was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Nisha.
Yeah, good job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. And there's a question from Christopher Carr. Have your outreach efforts changed significantly since returning to more in-person activities?
I don't know if that's to me or to anybody, so I'll in case somebody wants to jump in, but a little bit, because it's nice to actually see some people on campus. Like, oh yeah, like it's great to see you. Let's chat. Whether it's in passing or going outside or that good stuff. So I would say it's about the same, but it also, when you see those visual reminders, you actually just see them in live, in person, their whole entire body versus, our little Zoom. It does remind you like, okay, why aren't we collaborating with that group? right? Or again, that human connection of like, hey, I see you, right? Not just in a virtual format. So I would say a little bit, yes, it's definitely increasing and definitely arising more ideas and more ways to partner and work together instead of in our little silos.
I agree with that on our end too. There's definitely momentum now that we're, slowly creeping back into the campus to engage in a more personal way than we've done before, than we've been doing since, the closures and the pandemic, et cetera. Not that it's already over, but, there's definitely some momentum towards engaging in a different way, in a more personal way.
I've definitely seen at least our student clubs and the officers, like during the start of the pandemic, I felt like a lot of the clubs kind of fell apart or they weren't meeting as frequently. But now I'm seeing that momentum come back, which is wonderful. And I'm hopeful that in the spring, we can have a little bit more engagement with our students.
Thanks for the question.
Chris says thanks.
Thank you. Good question.
So Michelle had another question. She says, I see that you did a lot of work in outreach. So I also wondered, how do you continue to develop relationships with academic senate and faculty in other disciplines to get across the importance of career education and exploration?
So I don't know if you want me to go ahead and jump in, Michelle, but we have, two counseling colleagues who sit on the academic senate. So it's also nice to have their ear. We also work closely with our work-based learning folks, which is amazing. We all kind of work together, even though they're on the instructional sides of things, and the Career Center is under student services and student development. So we work with them closely. Our work-based learning not co-coordinators, but coordinators, Sean and Caitlin, are great. And they have certain departments and schools that they have liaisons with. So we've been partnering with them because they have a lot of really good relationships with faculty and administration on their end. So working together with them has definitely strengthened that because we don't know every single faculty. And so it's really important to have faculty buy-in, because if we're going to help market, if we're going to help collaborate, if we're going to outreach, right, we need to have the faculty buy-in, and we really need to have strong faculty connections is what we're finding, to understand what career services is, and that everybody on campus should be doing career. And I know that's a whole nother story, but we're doing our best to try to strengthen our relationships in various different ways.
And then if I can add, that's great, Christy. At Miramar, what we've started doing is attending some of our advisory boards. So for example, like the business department has their own advisory board, Diesel has their own advisory board. So that's also a way for us to continue strengthening our partnerships, understanding the programs, learning about like community members, alumni, people that we can continue to partner with or build new relationships with. And then also anytime labor market type of information comes up that's very targeted towards a specific program with new and emerging career trends, that's something that also I like to connect with the experts who teach the subjects and ask them about their thoughts and their opinions. So those are some examples.
Thank you so much. I put thank you in the chat, but it's disabled, so I said thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Great questions.
Is there any additional questions? I think we may be able to get that time back then. So, well, thanks everyone for attending, and you'll get prompted to kind of answer a survey for after you leave. So if you have time to rate session, please do. And otherwise, yeah, have a great day and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Take care, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks. Good job. Thanks,
Bye.
Robert.
Thank you for the wonderful information.
Thank you.
Thank you.